Look at the short end of this cloth. The edge is frayed, a little fringe of loose cotton threads hanging off a plain white rectangle, and your first thought is the one everyone has. The factory forgot to hem it. Somebody on a production line cut a corner to save a cent, and this is the cheap result, a thin towel already coming apart in my hand. It was not a mistake. That raw, unfinished edge is the entire design. And by the end of this video, you are going to see that the 9th and last job on today's list is the exact job that frayed edge was built to do. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. I just want you to keep looking at that fringe while we count. This is a tenugui, a thin cotton hand cloth about 14 inches by 35 inches, the kind that is hung by kitchen sinks and folded into work aprons across Japan for a few hundred years. A good plain one costs about $10 to $20 at a shop, and it lasts for years. If you would rather spend nothing at all, you can cut one down from an old cotton bed sheet in the closet and get most of the way there. One cloth, bought once. Now go and open the drawer in your kitchen that this cloth is up against. You know the one. There is a roll of paper towels standing on the counter above it that runs out and gets replaced. Inside the drawer there are dish rags going gray, a wad of disposable cleaning wipes, and somewhere else in the house a roll of gift wrap, a stretchy sweatband, and a bag of paper napkins. Every one of those is a thing you buy, use up, throw in the trash, and buy again. None of it costs much on any single day. A few dollars for the paper towels at the store, a few more for the wipes, a gift bag here, a pack of napkins there. That is exactly how it works on you. The spend is small enough that you never once stop and add it up, so it never feels like a decision, and it quietly repeats every month for the rest of your life. This one cloth was the answer to all of it, long before any of those products sat on a shelf. Before paper towels, it dried the dishes and wiped the hands. Before disposable wipes, it cleaned the counter and the floor. Before store-bought gift wrap, it wrapped the present. Before the drugstore sweatband, it tied back the hair and caught the sweat on a hot afternoon. The same rectangle did the work that a whole aisle of single-use products does now, and it did it with nothing filling up the trash can behind it. The part that got me came later when I started looking into why we ever set it down. We did not set this cloth down because something better came along. The plain cloth got quietly recast as the poor man's rag, the primitive thing, while the paper roll and the branded towel were sold to us as the clean, modern, hygienic choice. You were taught to treat the disposable version as the upgrade. I am going to show you it was the downgrade, and that you have been paying a small monthly fee for that downgrade ever since. There is an idea I keep coming back to with this cloth. Kept, not finished. The tenugui was never sewn shut on both ends, never sealed into one fixed shape, and that is exactly why it could go on working, go on adapting, go on doing one more job than you expected. Kept, not finished. So before we are done, I am going to hand you 9 real jobs this one cloth does, each one canceling something you currently rebuy, and the last one, the job that frayed edge was made for, is the one I think you will actually remember. But to understand why a Japanese household trusted a single thin cloth with all of it, you have to go back to where it came from, to a time when this exact rectangle was far too precious to ever wipe your hands on. In my grandmother's house, there was a cloth you were not allowed to touch. It sat folded on a small shelf near the family altar, the butsudan, and it was not a rag for your hands. It was closer to something you would find at a shrine. That was the older idea of this cloth, and it is where the story actually starts. Go back far enough and the tenugui was not cotton at all. In the Heian period, which ran from the late 700s to the end of the 1100s, a cloth this shape was woven from silk or from hemp, and it was costly enough that ordinary people did not own one. It showed up in Shinto and Buddhist ceremony, in the hands of priests inside a temple, wrapped around sacred objects. A rectangle of cloth was a ritual item, not a kitchen tool. So when I told you a moment ago that this exact shape was once too precious to wipe your hands on, I meant it plainly. What changed was cotton. Over the Edo period, the long stretch from the early 1600s to the late 1800s, cotton cultivation spread across the Japanese countryside, and those cotton fields turned a luxury cloth into an everyday one. The plain cotton tenugui, the kind hanging by the sink, is the version that finally reached ordinary homes. Therefore, the cloth carries 2 lives in it at once, the old sacred rectangle folded by the altar, and the cheap workhorse it became once cotton was everywhere. Something in the old Edo records stopped me cold. In that city, this cloth was also your business card. Before a printed card existed, before a shop had a logo on a wooden sign, a merchant would take a tenugui and dye his shop name or his family crest, the kamon, right into the cloth. A kabuki actor did the same with his own crest. So did the big sumo wrestlers at the ring. Then they handed these cloths out. A tenugui with your crest on it was an advertisement you could fold into a stranger's hand. And it was also a gift, an aisatsu, the small courtesy cloth given as a thank you, a greeting, or a get-well token. The rectangle carried your name across the city on its way to drying somebody's hands. Picture that Edo street for a second because it tells you how much this plain object mattered. A famous kabuki actor put his identity on the same kind of cloth you are about to watch wipe a kitchen counter. But the reason I can tell you any of this with a straight face is that the trade did not die with the Edo period. It is still running today. In Tokyo, there is a dye house called Tokyo Wazarashi, founded in 1889 over in the Katsushika ward, and it still dyes tenugui and still runs a working studio. A few years after it opened, in 1899, a wholesaler named Marukyu Shoten set up shop in the Nihonbashi district doing the same craft. Two Tokyo houses, more than 120 years apiece, still turning out this cloth by hand. So when I say the tenugui was kept, I am not handing you a nice sentiment. I mean there are named companies with dated ledgers who simply never stopped. And those Tokyo dye houses are where one quiet fact about the cloth gets interesting. The way they color a good tenugui is a method called chusen, where liquid dye is poured straight down through a whole stack of folded cotton at once, soaking the pattern all the way through the weave instead of printing it on the surface. The result is a cloth with no front and no back. Turn it over on the table and the design sits exactly as strong on the other side, which is going to matter more than it sounds once this cloth starts doing real work. I want to be careful about the dating here because getting it wrong is easy, and I would rather you trust me on the small things. Chusen is not some ancient Edo secret. It is a Meiji-era technique from the late 1800s, developed around Osaka and refined in Tokyo, which is exactly why those two dye houses are the ones still doing it. The Edo cloth was colored by older stencil work and indigo dipping. The pour-through reversible chusen cloth came later in the hands of those Meiji workshops. So look at what this rectangle has already been: a holy cloth on a heian altar, an everyday towel once the cotton fields arrived, a walking billboard folded into a merchant's palm in Edo, and finally, a piece of Meiji craft you can still order from a Tokyo company older than most of the streets around it. That is the object sitting in my hand. Now let me actually put it to work and start counting the 9 jobs it quietly does, one plain thing at a time. Number 1. The job it was born for is the plainest one on the list. You wet a corner under the tap, wipe your face and your hands, and hang it back on the little hook by the sink. Because the cotton is so thin, it gives up its water fast and dries in minutes, not hours. So it never turns into that damp, sour-smelling towel folded over your oven door. That thinness is also the honest catch, and I am not going to hide it from you. This is not a thick bath sheet, and it was never trying to be. It is a light cloth that sheds water quickly, and drying fast is the entire point of it. Number 2. Carry that same cloth to the kitchen sink, and it becomes your dish rag. It wipes a plate, dries a wet glass, mops a spill off the counter, and wrings out nearly dry in your 2 hands. Now remember what I told you a minute ago about the chusen dye? The color poured straight down through the whole stack of cotton, so there is no front and no back. Here is where that stops being a nice piece of trivia. There is no wrong side to wipe with, no printed face you have to keep clean and turned up. Both sides are the working side. Therefore, one thin rectangle quietly retires the paper towel roll and the pile of dish rags in the same drawer. Number 3. Fold it the long way into a strip and tie it around your head. This is the hachimaki, the twisted headband you have seen on a festival drummer, a fisherman, a cook leaning over a hot grill. Knotted at the back of the skull, it keeps sweat and loose hair out of your eyes while your hands are busy. At a matsuri, a summer street festival, that same cloth ties around the waist as a belt or a sash. It went from drying your hands to holding your hair back with a single twist. No sewing, no snap, no elastic band to wear out. Number 4, it also wraps. Lay a water bottle across the middle, not the corners over the top, and you are holding a carry handle. Bundle a small gift or a boxed lunch the same way. That is the furoshiki cousin living inside this cloth, and I am going to keep it short here because that wrapping cloth has its own long history and its own video. In the Tenugui, wrapping is just one more thing it does on the side. If you are getting something out of this, the kindest thing you can do is tap subscribe. That is the whole channel really, one plain old method at a time, nothing you have to go out and buy. Now, back to the cloth in my hand. Number 5, carry it into the bath. At a Japanese hot spring, an onsen, people bring a small tenugui down to the water with them. You use it to scrub and rinse yourself off at the washing stools before you ever step into the pool. Then you wring it out and set it folded on top of your head while you sit and soak in the hot water. So it is a washcloth, a scrubbing cloth, and a cool compress for your forehead, all in the same thin piece of cotton. And because it weighs almost nothing wet, it dries on the walk back to your room instead of sitting sour in a bag. Number 6. Back home, when the cloth is finally too worn and too faded to touch your face with, it does not go in the trash. It just drops a rank. It becomes a cleaning rag. You run it along a dusty shelf, wipe down a windowsill, buff a smudge off a wooden floor. This is the last easy job, the retirement job, the one every tired cloth in a Japanese house eventually ends up doing before it is done. But look at what I have actually handed you so far: a face towel, a dish rag, a headband, a wrap, a washcloth, and a dust cloth. 6 honest jobs out of one cheap rectangle, and every single one is a job you are currently paying somebody else to do for you with paper or with plastic. Therefore, this cloth has already earned back its $10 or $20 several times over, and I still have not reached the 3 jobs that make it worth sitting through a whole video. The best one is the 9th, and it is the exact job that frayed unfinished edge was built for. That is the one I have been holding back. Let me show you the last 3. Number 7. Hang that same cloth in a doorway and it becomes a norin, the short split curtain you have seen swaying in the entrance of a Japanese shop or a family kitchen. It softens the light and marks where one room ends and the next begins. Stretch a good chusen dyed one over a simple wooden frame instead, and the same cloth hangs on your wall as art for a fraction of anything you would buy to fill that blank space. So the cloth that dried your hands this morning can hang in your doorway by dinner and hang framed on your wall for years after that. Number 8, fold it into a pad and it goes to work under a helmet. In a kendo hall, before a fencer pulls on the men, the heavy padded mask that covers the face, they wrap a tenugui around the head first. It catches the sweat pouring off the scalp and gives that hard helmet something soft to press against. The cloth soaks up everything an hour of hard practice throws at it, then dries out fast on the rack, because thin cotton never holds much water for long. Every fencer in the hall owns a few, and each one costs about what a bottle of sports drink costs. Number 9. This is the one I have been holding back since the first minute. Take that frayed short edge, the one that looks like a mistake, start a small cut with your thumbnail, and tear. The cloth rips clean and straight along the weave, in a true line, every time. Tear off a narrow strip and you are holding a bandage for a cut, a tie for a splint, a cord to lash something shut, a length of exactly the width you need and not a thread more. Since the Edo period, that is exactly why the cloth doubled as a repair kit and a first aid kit you wore around your body. A torn strip could bind a cut, lash a splint, or retie a snapped sandal strap, cut to the width you needed and not a thread more. Now, why does it tear so clean and so straight? This is the whole video in one fact, so stay with me. Those 2 short edges are not raw because someone was lazy or cutting a corner to save a cent. They were left unfinished on purpose. A folded sewn hem traps a little water in its crease every time the cloth gets wet, and water sitting in cotton is exactly how a towel turns sour and grows mildew. Leave the edge raw and there is nothing to hold that water, so the cloth dries fast and stays clean. And because the edge is raw, the weave is open, which is the very reason it tears by hand in a straight line. The fray does not run away on you either. It stops itself after about a quarter inch and holds there. They left it unfinished on purpose, and every job on this list runs out of that one quiet decision. This next part should bother you a little. Somewhere along the way, you were sold the finished version as the better one. The hemmed, bordered towel, the branded paper roll on the counter wrapped in words like hygienic and modern. The plain cloth with the raw edge got quietly recast as the poor man's rag, the thing you were supposed to graduate away from. But the raw cloth was the more capable tool and the more sanitary one. And the finished upgrade you were nudged toward is the thing you pay for again every month. Now let me be square with you, because this channel does not oversell. It is thin cotton. It will not haul a heavy load, and it is not the thing for a wet, greasy mess on the stovetop. It is a cloth, not a miracle. It does 9 ordinary jobs honestly and cheaply, and it asks almost nothing of you after the first $10. So keep one in a drawer. Better still, keep the skill, because the cloth is the easy part. Knowing what a plain rectangle of cotton can do, and knowing you can tear it to any width you need, is the real thing to hand down. That is a Tenugui kept, not finished. Tell me one thing down in the comments. What is the oldest cloth still doing real work in your house? And did anyone ever teach you to tear one straight to size? Or are you learning it here first? If you want more of this, subscribe and stand with the rest of us, relearning the plain, practical things our grandparents simply knew. Next, I want to put binchatan in your hands, the Japanese white charcoal that pulls the damp and the smell out of a whole room for a few dollars, with no filter to swap and no cord to plug in. Same family of knowledge, same few dollar logic. So find your oldest cloth, learn to tear it to size, and pass it on the way it reached you, kept, not finished.